So Owen Farrell and Billy Vunipola will miss the start of the World Cup for England. Those decisions released last night and then early this morning. And in the Farrell case, a hearing which, by the sounds of it, went on literally all day, about 10 hours or something ridiculous. Everyone waiting for the decision to be released. But we have finally got there. And quite frankly, I think, thank goodness, that whole saga is over. But that's what I'm getting into in this video. Both of those decisions, what it might mean for England, and actually what it's highlighted with the disciplinary process in rugby more generally. I think that is the big lesson, really, that we can learn from this. But drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know if you think they're fair, if you think it's right. Are you agreeing with me that you're just quite glad that it's finally over? You can have your say down below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Would massively, massively appreciate that. But let's get into it. So it's been such a contentious topic over the last week to 10 days, particularly the Owen Farrell one. I'm glad that it is finally over. I know some of you are probably going to disagree and feel like it needs to be a 6-game ban rather than a 4-game ban. But I think overall, at least we have got to a point where we all thought it was a ban. A 4-game ban is a decent ban. He misses the opening couple of games of the World Cup. So I don't have too many issues with where we've ended up. It's been the process to get here that is really kind of my issue with the whole thing. But I'll get into that very, very shortly. As I say, thank goodness it's over. What happened yesterday? Well, 7:30 in the morning, Owen Farrell's disciplinary hearing, or World Rugby's appeal to the disciplinary hearing, started, and it went on all day. There were people on the call in New Zealand who had been up throughout the whole of the night. Took a long, long time, and eventually the decision was released late yesterday evening. I think it was around 9 o'clock UK time. So it took a long, long time for it to be released. Bit of a marathon hearing, and ultimately, to cut a long story short, what they've decided is that Owen Farrell, in that tackle on Tame Basham, it was always going to be an illegal hit. He always had his right arm tucked, so therefore he was never looking to make a legal tackle. Therefore, you can't apply mitigation, and a red card is the correct decision. The panel previously had said that the actions of Jamie George moved Tame Basham off course, which affected the tackle zone, and that was enough mitigation to drop it down to a yellow card, which had most people dumbfounded, really. And the hearing yesterday basically found that that panel had made an error in judgment. I wasn't sure originally if they would be able to overturn the disciplinary decision to downgrade it to a yellow card, just because it was on World Rugby and their representatives. They had to provide a burden of proof that that disciplinary group, those 3 Australians that did downgrade it, ultimately got it wrong. And I thought that might be a bit tricky for them to do, despite what we all think of that tackle. Fortunately, I think common sense has prevailed. It was always going to be an illegal tackle. So therefore, red card, no mitigation. There is an interesting line in that process and in the verdict that was released yesterday. They're not releasing the full written report, by the way, but we've only got kind of the press release. And there's a line in there about Owen Farrell showing remorse and his good character as a reason it wasn't 6 games. It's dropped down to a 4-game ban. That includes the Ireland game last weekend, because England have said they were going to select him, but they had to drop him because of all the furore around what was happening. So that counts. The Fiji game this weekend counts, and then the first 2 games at the World Cup will count as well. So that's the 4-game ban for Owen Farrell. As I say, I feel like 4 games is probably about fair. I'm sure there'll be some of you that will be saying it should be more. He's got off again. It needs to be 6 games. I don't have a huge issue with it. What I have an issue with is the whole disciplinary process. And I think it's been hard to follow for quite a long time in rugby. We've known that there have been inconsistencies, and working out what length of ban different players get has always seemed to be quite hit and miss. But this has really put it into the spotlight, I think, because it got overturned originally and dropped back down to a yellow card. And that line in the press release, the thing that I just mentioned about Owen Farrell, his good character and him showing remorse. Firstly, I would contest about how much remorse he showed, in terms of they appealed the original decision and said it wasn't worthy of a red card. And also the good character thing. I don't think that should come into it when it comes to disciplinary hearings. If this is about head contact, if this is about player safety, it doesn't really matter what the tackler is like as a person. It needs to purely be about that instant. And actually, it's a line that is, I'll get onto the Vunipola one now. It was a line in that as well, where it says his good character and that sort of thing. To me, that shouldn't have anything to do with a disciplinary hearing. I think those are things that maybe World Rugby or the authorities need to look at and say it shouldn't really be about if someone has good character or if they're remorseful. It's just about that tackle and what sort of ban that players should get, basically, off the back of it. That's just my thoughts on it. So inconsistency in the disciplinary hearings, massive, massive issue. I really hope it doesn't affect the World Cup too much, but I do fear that there are going to be multiple controversial decisions. I mean, we even had it in Cardiff at the weekend, the game I was at, where the Rio Dye yellow card, I think most people really don't feel like that was a penalty try and a yellow card overall, but I don't know, hopefully we don't have too many big decisions in the knockout games at the World Cup, but I fear that we might. Let's get on to Billy Vunipola. 3-game ban for him, which will be reduced to 2 games because he can do this World Rugby tackle school course to reduce it. So he'll miss the Fiji game this weekend. He'll miss the Argentina game on Saturday the 9th of September. That's England's first game at the World Cup. And then why wouldn't he do the course? He'll do the course and he'll be back after that. So reduce it down to a 2-game ban. And again, that's something I've mentioned on this channel before. But this whole tackle school, 1, I don't think it's working. And 2, I don't think you should have that option to do it's like a speed awareness course, isn't it, essentially, to reduce your ban slightly by a week. I don't think it should be an option to the players because I don't really think it's all that effective in the first place. And it just seems to be a bit of a loophole for people to be able to get their bans reduced. But Vunipola, the interesting thing with him is what England do at number 8 in his absence. I think Courtney Lawes is going to captain the team I think he's going to captain the team this weekend against Fiji, and I think he'll captain the team in the absence of Owen Farrell. So presumably he starts at 6. What do you do at 7? Do you go with a Curry if depends what his fitness is like. Ben Earl, who's looked really good in the World Cup warm-up so far, is basically one of the only players that in England shirt that has looked good. Or do you put Ben Earl at 8? Do you put Ludlam at 8? What Steve Borthwick does there, I think, will be quite interesting for England. And they lose a little bit of firepower. Vunipola, I know his form hasn't been the best, but in terms of a specialist number 8, he's the only one in the squad. So Ludlam, Earl, both options. See what England try and do in that area. But 3-game ban for Billy Vunipola, which will be reduced to 2. And a 4-game ban for Owen Farrell, which includes the game last weekend against Ireland. Inconsistencies in the disciplinary process, something we have seen before, but it's put it in the spotlight once more. Let me know your thoughts down below on both of these incidents. And as I say, as far as I'm concerned, thank goodness they're over, really. It's been an understandable circus because it was a big news story. It's England's captain getting a red card on the eve of a World Cup. It's a player who has previously had some technique issues with his high tackle. So I didn't have a problem with it being a big story, but I must admit I'm pretty glad that it's over. But you can have your say in the comments section. Like the video and subscribe to the channel as well. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.